which we need, all of us need to go to address heads on. So very good. Thank you. So the next speaker is Edoardo. He's going to talk to us about CERN.
CERN is a research institute. We run particle colliders that is 27 kilometers long. And everything at CERN runs over an IP network. So from the control devices for the cooling and the vacuum system of the accelerator to the data center that collects data coming from the detectors and then send them out to for analysis to remote data centers, and also to the campus network, where we have every day 8,000 users. 5,000 are fixed users and 3,000 are guests. So they come and stay one day, or from one day to several months, and they need IPv6 connectivity, IPv4 connectivity. And myself, I'm the head of the network engineering team. And in 2010, we got the official mandate to deploy IPv6. So that means that we got the funding and the necessary manpower to do it. We were already connected to the V6 internet, so our primary task was to be sure that operationally the deployment of IPv6 will follow exactly IPv4. So we have started migrating, adapting all our provisioning tool, database to V6. This is a process that we are in the moment now. And this is taking a long time because it's a very large software system. At the same time, we have set up a test bed based on virtual machines where they have dual stack connectivity. The users can get a virtual machine and install their operating system of choice and then test their applications. The idea is the day we are ready with the deployment of IPv6 for the end users, they will also be able to use successfully their applications. My project is not only configuring the network, but is also imply training the support lines and operation teams, and also, as I said, the users, make the user aware of this IPv6 network that will come, the opportunities they will have, and tell them how to modify their application in order to use the network.
So does your scientist find the IPv6-based network easier for them to share information than they're not using it yet?
Well, we have two sites in Asia where they have better IPv6 connectivity than IPv4. Mm-hmm. So already today, we are transferring data to Asia over IPv6 because that's the preferred.
That's a preferred. Protocol. Okay, that's an important data point. CERN is a special environment because, you know, with the World Wide Web, you guys were well into this kind of activity, and a lot of their needs we end up leveraging later on. You know, scientists are transferring large amount of data. They need the pipe to just work. So, thank you. So I left this picture in just so you get to show it. So the next speaker is Bart. He's going to talk to us about what the Belgian federal government is looking at doing.
Thank you. My name is Bart Hanssens. I work for FEDICT, which is actually the Federal Public Service ICT. You can call it the Ministry of the Belgian federal government. We provide e-government services to other public administrations like the EID card, but also, of course, network services, including FEDMAN, which is actually a high-speed, reliable, and secure network between the federal public administrations. What have we done? Well, the good news is at the basic level, so the routers, they were already IPv6 capable in 2009. And then we started testing. We took the easy approach, just add some test lab use a reverse proxy, put it in front of some famous websites, and you get some results out of it very quickly. So that went fairly well. Then we started testing our other equipment, and then we encountered some issues, like performance from firewalls and load balancers and so on and so on. So that's something that we still have to tackle in the next years. We are gradually replacing our equipment to make sure that we can provide the best services to our citizens and businesses. And we also started to provide training to people, making other administrations aware that IPv6 is here and is going to stay and will be very important. And we will also put in public tenders an extra requirement that all equipment and also all network services, including the things like e-payment solutions and anti-spam and web content management systems, also have to be IPv6 capable. Actually, we have been doing that for quite some time by now, but we couldn't enforce it until now, because until very recently, well, the products weren't always that IPv6 capable as the vendor said. But that being said, I think we're moving in the right direction, and if all goes well, we might have a note to the Council of Ministers ready for this month. But that's something that's work in progress. Thank you.
Thank you. So our next speaker is Wim. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Wim Vandersmissen. I'm a network engineer at the University of Leuven, KULeuven. I'm responsible for some of the core network services like DNS, DHCP, VPN, firewalling, and since last year also IPv6. We started our deployment last year in January. We started first with the internet-facing services like DNS, like our in- and outgoing mail server, and also some of our websites. Mostly the websites which are hosted on our load balancers, because that's the easy way. Internally, we had some questions from different departments that wanted connectivity. The computer science department especially, they wanted to experiment with V6 and to set up some sensor networks. So we gave them as one of the first customers connectivity. Of course, our own department, of which the network team is a part of, the central IT department, also got IPv6 connectivity. Another large customer of us, we have about 40,000 students in our university. We decided to give them ISATAP connectivity because some of our students are behind cable modems and they are serviced by a third-party provider, so we can't give them native access. So we decided to put a ISATAP connectivity button on the portal when they log on, and this way they can select to have an IPv6 address and also join the IPv6 community. Thank you.
So do you see a big uptake with the student, or do they care?
Well, it's really a beta feature. We haven't publicly announced it, but they can see it when they log on, and we have about 400 or 500 students at the moment that are using it at the same time.
And actually, I haven't asked all my panelists, but it just made me think of it. So what's your plan with regard to just bringing it on by default to your community? Do you have any immediate plan? Like making so that your students just use IPv6 by default. They don't have to do anything to get it.
We'll have to test some more about the performance if we're going to enable ISATAP for like 40,000 students. But probably we're going to do it because with ISATAP we mitigate some layer 2 issues that we're having right now. Some of our switches.
Yeah, and I think you need to talk to Todd, and maybe he will tell you that's not a good idea.
But we are using Linux.
So our next speaker is Mark, and he's going to talk to us about what Continental Tire are doing with regard to IPv6. Thank you, Mark.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for inviting me here. I'm Mark Richter. I work for Continental Automotive. It's not the hotel, it's Continental Automotive. It's not the airline, it's automotive. That means we are producing parts and units for motor engine control and tires and this kind of stuff. We are a distributed enterprise corporation with about 300 locations worldwide, a good amount of production and R&D plants and so on. My first contact with IPv6 was in 1996, in the very early years, what I heard this morning something about. At that time, the teacher told us in 2 or 3 years it will be ready to be deployed. I think that's long ago, and so I'm quite relaxed when I talk about IPv6 today.
But remember, IPv4 took 30 years, so we're doing okay.
Yeah. The situation in Continental is that our internal network is based on private IP addresses, as it is in most enterprises and many enterprises. We do not have a high need for additional IP addresses within that environment. There is currently no real business partner of us requesting real IPv6 connectivity or something like that. There are some ideas, there are some discussions, but it's not that urgent that we have a pressure to go on within this year or next year. As I heard the timelines of the colleague beside me, that's not the case in our environment. We are thinking about a relaxed approach and structured approach that is, in principle, I'm wrong here. I cannot talk about transformation. We are simply starting to plan that process. We are thinking about where does it make sense most, because we are not an IT-focused company in that meaning. We are not a provider or something like that. We're a production business, and in that case, IT is not our core business. It's just a cost factor, and we have to keep costs low. That means we have to use the investment cycles that are out there to replace things. And that is typically within a production environment 5 to 10 years for local area network equipment, for example. That means that today we even have systems in some areas that are 10, 12 years old in some production areas. What is still working does not cause any problems, and we do not see a need to replace it urgently. If it's only 2 or 3 years old, it can work another 5 years before we have to replace that typically. That means we have some time for planning. That means we want to do a thorough planning. We want to give some guidelines out to everybody what to purchase next within our locations, that we have a clear roadmap for that. And the target is to have that roadmap by mid of 2012. The most driving factor for us right now is Microsoft, because they're quite, let's say it, a pain in the ass in that special area, because they're telling us they will no longer support our clients with Windows 7 if we do not enable the IPv6 stack. And I do not really understand why this has to be, but it is, and we cannot change it, so we have to cope with the topic. That was one of the drivers to do the roadmap now and not next year, let's say.
Thank you, Microsoft. Next. Can you tell us a little bit about car-to-car communication? Just at a high level.
That's more an outlook to the future. We expect, and that's what our engineers are working on, is car-to-car communication with all the manufacturers out there. The idea is to enable the cars, maybe via internet, to connect to each other, to enable the driver to connect to his home base or wherever, to enable the maintenance and the stations to see what the status of their cars is that they are supporting, and this kind of stuff. It's vision for 5 to 10 years, but that will also give a push on IPv6, because you can imagine if you have 1 billion cars out there right now and produce 50 million a year all over the world, that will give a lot of IP addresses you will need. And it's not only the cars, it's also the sensors, the electronics, the motor components, the control units, and all of this has to be addressed within the car. And Ethernet is going to the car definitely this year also.
So that's a compelling business case. Thank you. So, hold on. Did you talk to that slide yet? You did more or less, right?
I think I covered most of what we do. It's just a little bit more detailed out here. You can read that afterwards,
okay.
I think.
Okay.
It's more or less about the roadmap, what we are going to do. It's nothing really implemented by now.
Okay, thanks. So our next and final panelist is Airbus, Christophe.
Hello, I'm Christophe Regouby from Airbus. I work as an enterprise architect in the IT team. So that means I'm doing the roadmap for projects and operation for the next years in IT in Airbus. We start in Airbus by an assessment study late 2010 to know what was the products already ready to go to IPv6 to evaluate the burden to do that. That study was a little bit opportunistic, positive, with positive results, but we lack the budget to go to the project. So to get that project budget, we did need definitely a business case, and the business case appear from first real value. So real value at that time, without anything activated in IPv6, was to get the DNS statistics. So the DNS statistics, from that statistics, you get what our external customer and supplier are asking for Airbus for Quad A versus A entries. And so we can see from that statistics that some verticals business are really requesting Quad A, so are asking Airbus for V6 content. And so that's the airbusmilitary.com. We can see that public people sites, for example, the A380delivery.com, which shows the internal of the aircraft as soon as it is delivered. So it's for public sharing, as also high level of IPv6 requests. And that we have 2% of IPv6 requests for the whole bunch of external communication with Airbus. So this is very interesting because we know at the exact time that we implement IPv6 for our internet facing, that we will have 2% of traffic level on V6 against V4. I try to extract the change in 1 year between those statistics, but we cannot extract some information from that. It's pure change, natural change of the numbers.
Next slide.
Yes, please. So then we turn to the risk for the whole enterprise Airbus not having IPv6 in order to know when to activate that in the time frame, because we know we will have to. So the first risk is Airbus not being able to reach innovative content on the internet as soon as this content will be only accessible through V6. This is a risk to take into account to the research team not being able to reach that content. The second risk is having a black hole for internet-facing services. So currently our great customers are located in emerging countries, so Middle East, Asia, etc. And it's a risk not being able to sell them service through our internet presence because they request that presence to be V6. So that has been the major risk that the business has to overcome and give a budget for that. Then there are also some business opportunities. So I won't talk about that, but for sure the IT team should support the business research. So as the business expect to sell aircraft with IPv6 connectivity, we have to implement some part of the network with IPv6 in order to support their development, their tests, etc. Then this is a transformation map. So that means currently we have activated internally for test an integration bench for internet facing. We have conducted the performance test. So the good result is that the performance is as the IPv4 performance for our internet facing infrastructure. We have all the new OSs deployed on our network, currently dual stack. so at a refurbishing state. And then we keep a long time for application testing before releasing the full content with the same host name than the IPv4 content. So application impact analysis is a huge thing to conduct. So it's not in the IT part, it's much more in the business, ICT business part. And then next year we will conduct the internal LAN, so campus, WAN and data center enablement in dual stack also.